Thank you for listening to Dental Marketing Theory. I'm your host, Gary Bird. Today I had the opportunity to chat with my friend, Jodi Evans, the dental operations whisperer. Jodi is the former COO and CMO of Community Dental Partners and has gone on to found and be the CEO of Rev Tribes. She basically does a consulting service that helps dental practices and organizations go from 7 to 8-figure mindsets. She's helped me with SMC and really helped us grow in a special way that is hard to put into words, but I've also seen her do it in the dental community. And I really think that you'll get a lot of value out of today's show because Jodi is an expert at framing mindsets that you have to have if you want to grow. Please stay tuned. You won't be disappointed. And as always, like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. All those things help our podcast and get the word out. Thank you so much. I am super excited. Today, I have my friend Jodi. Jodi, how are you doing?
Amazing. So grateful to be here. Thank you so much.
I like your shirt. Tell me about your shirt.
Thank you. So it is our logo for Rev Tribes and of course represents like the circle of a tribe. And then it has Morse code on there for we see you. And that goes with our theme of people want to be seen, not fixed, which is a lot of, in essence, like what we do and what we get excited about is seeing people and then seeing how their strengths can come together to form this tribe mindset of all these collective strengths help us go far together.
That is so cool. I know the guy that made that for you.
Pretty amazing, right?
Joshua, right?
Yes, Studio 88. They did an incredible job. And I was pretty in love with my other logo. And I had a really good, honest friend come to me and tell me that looks like a gym. You know, like I was like a CrossFit gym. And I was like, yeah, that's okay. You know, whatever. I'm fine with that. But Studio 88 gently moved me in the right direction. So I appreciated that.
That's so cool. It looks really, really good. I've seen it on paper, but now I see it on your shirt. It looks really good. So tell me, I want to just to get our listeners, everybody that we've been having on the show, everybody's been sharing how they ended up in the dental industry. Most of the people outside of the dentist that I talked to kind of ended up in dentistry on accident. I would love for you to take as much time as you need and just share your dental journey, how you got into the dental industry.
Totally on accident, like everybody else. You know, I'm not special in that way. I had a video company that I was running, and we did videography videos like all over. And this was, you know, over 10 years ago. So video was still kind of new and what it could do for your SEO and things like that. So really had a fun time like building and working through that complexity. But once it was done, I found myself, I have narcolepsy. I found myself like having a hard time staying awake. And so my husband worked at Smile Magic, which is now CDP. And he was in marketing. And I brought him lunch one day. And I said, oh my gosh, my brain is so awake here. Like you guys have a lot of complexity. This is really interesting. And so then the next day I showed up. And then by day 3, he was like, you know, this is awkward. Like you can't just show up to my work and start like asking a bunch of questions. And so he's like, you probably need to get a job here. And so I did. I took a part-time job as an assistant to the CMO, which was my husband's boss at the time, and just started working and found a passion for the patients first and then the staff and then the doctors. But I definitely started with a passion for helping these patients. We were to Medicaid. There was very intense and sad circumstances that we would often see. And I felt a little bit connected to that because of my own life situation and realizing that, you know, I always say like I was 2 relationships away from being in the same place that those patients were at, some of those single moms with their kids. And because I had great relationships and wonderful people in my life, I avoided some of that, but other people didn't have that. So definitely started with that empathy towards the patients and then moved towards understanding the rest of the picture.
Yeah, that's awesome. So walk me through a little bit of how when you got started in dental, what was your first position? And then how did you kind of move up the ladder there?
So I started in basically like I was a lady that, I hope it's okay to say this, but like just a lady who cut through garbage. Like I didn't even have a title, right? I was an assistant and they're like, oh, well, you like to help here. And because of my neurological stuff, I'd like, you know, the back of my head would burn when things were misaligned. And so I'd go and like try to figure that out. And then we had a call center that was a disaster. It was the most hated department in the company. And so they said, hey, do you want to like see if you could turn this around? And I started tackling that, became the call center director, then moved over to ortho, then the CMO, the chief marketing officer, when marketing got really messy in Texas with Medicaid. And I like messy and I like taking things from chaos to stability, right? So it was super fun to work through that. And after a couple of years in that role, then I was the COO. So it just kind of evolved. It was really like I took the job that nobody else wanted. I wasn't like fighting for the position or like there was no politics. It was like, this is a mess. And I was like, yay, ran towards it, I think. So that I kind of just ended up there because that's what I was passionate about.
That is so cool. Yeah. And I will say, full disclosure, I've worked with Jodi on dental accounts that we're marketing on and she's working in. I've also had her help us with SMC. And I told her this, I think that she's an operations whisperer. She's able to come in and maybe not understand everything about our operations, but she's able to ask us the right questions that kind of moves us in that direction. And so how do you look at it, at what you do? And you called it something else when I told you operations whisperer.
No, I love that. I think that ultimately what we're always going to work towards is how do we take operations at the end of the day is a bunch of unique individuals with unique strengths. How do we take them and bring them on this journey with us towards this amazing vision? Because a lot of times visionaries, we can just get so far ahead super fast and we can be like, this is what it can be, On the Colby, I'm a 10 quick start, which means like I live in the future. I have a hard time even being present. And so operations is really about how do you bring that team of talent with you to that future vision? And how do you do it in a way that every person is valued and seen, and you're maximizing their superpowers because they're with you. They might as well be able to show up fully and contribute to that vision in a way that's meaningful for everybody. So
how do you, and I love that. And I think you're great at it, right? I think that's your unique ability is to be able to see that really clearly and help other people see that clearly and move in that direction. So is that how Rev Tribe got started? Is that you said, I want to do this, or did it organically come up in a different way?
I think it came up in this way of I was working at CDP at the time and we started doing acquisitions and I started working with executive teams or pre-existing executive teams and first created this thing called Vision in a Box, and I was just working on this workshop, but that was on the side of my regular, day-to-day job. And as we were doing this, I was like, I'm really passionate about this. And so began to realize like, I think this is my passion is how do we get everybody on board to go towards that vision? So it kind of happened that way. And then as I exited CDP to go and do this, I took some time out and really looked at my tribe. I called you, Gary. I was calling people with different strengths. I'm like, hey, what's your Colby? Can you come help me? And really started to build like this concept out more fully because I had the time and the space to do that and to systematize it a little bit more than what I was doing over at CDP.
Got it. And then so now your Rev Tribes is up. You have clients. What are you doing on a day-to-day basis? How are you helping people? Where is that it started with the vision? Where are you at now with it?
We do a lot of one-on-one coaching, and then we do summits that help bring that, it's this event that lets everybody see their superpowers and their strengths, and there's a lot of playfulness around it. There's also a lot of intensity in it, and we get really clear on where we're going and how we're each going to show up to that vision. And then we do one-on-one coaching with the innovator, the project manager, and the operators to get them all aligned. And that's done through platform and things like that. But yeah, that's the basis of it. It's mostly just one-to-one coaching with these team members moving towards a platform that everybody's agreed on.
That's awesome. And what kind of results are you seeing with that so far? Just being in, starting to have your clients, what are you seeing the impact of that?
It's super exciting. I'll start with the people first. The thing that is really exciting is to see people step into their strengths. And it's not just, hey, let's talk about our strengths and then go back to our day job. It's integrating their strengths with their day job. And so starting to see them elevate with the visionary and start moving fast. My favorite is when they're like, okay, they're moving too fast. I'm like, yay, because it's so much easier to slow a team down than to speed it up. I'm seeing people select to go where they need to go on that org chart. We're not doing the change management. They understand where they're going, where the visionary is going, and they understand how they can best show up. And so offering that strength and saying, this is where I need to go. This is who I need, this is how I need to show up. And this is the team I need around me. So from the people standpoint, the organization of the people, it's fun to see them start from a place of thinking that they want to go a certain way and then realizing where their strengths are and stepping into that. People are so used to struggle. They're so used to pain. And they think that if they're in pain, then they're doing something right. Oh, I'm challenging myself, And I'm like, actually, you're way outside your unique ability. And if you stepped into that and you weren't dealing with the struggle, then you could really go deep and you could contribute at a much higher level, not have the anxiety, the stress, and whatever. And I think that's exciting. That's the people side. The platform side, seeing people collaborate in ways that they haven't before and getting results they weren't getting before. A lot of our clients are starting to double. They're wanting to, they're expanding their locations. They're adding on more locations, de novos, et cetera. And they're doing it with the team that they have. And the platform, they're having conversations they just didn't know how to have before. So I work with great people. I don't love to work with people who are like, hey, my team's terrible. Can you come help me? I'm like, no. But hey, my team is great, but we need to figure out how to collaborate better. And we need to figure out how to allocate resources and, what to focus on first, second, third. Like that's the really fun part. Is because when they do that, they're moving forward a little bit more efficiently than they were in the past, but also they're moving forward with this collaborative platform.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I've seen it firsthand, and it really does help free things up. And anybody who's maybe a little bit stuck in the process, I definitely recommend that they reach out to you and ask questions. Jodi's really good at being able to ask. She always answers my questions with questions, right? And then I go, wait a second, I didn't think of it from that angle, right? And so she's really good at that. Quick changing gears on you just a little bit. So you're working in this emerging DSO space, and everybody has different definitions of what an emerging DSO is. Is it somebody who's just starting as a DSO? Is it somebody who has 30 practices, 50? But you're kind of in that space of, and correct me if I'm wrong, 5, 10, 15 locations that you're kind of helping them expand. And where do you see the biggest opportunity right now in the industry, and not just with your clients, but also with just in the industry as a whole? Where are you seeing the biggest opportunities?
I think that what I see is that people take leadership for granted. And they think that if I'm hiring somebody in this position, they should just go do it and be awesome. And so I think there's a huge opportunity to say, just because you're paying a high amount of salary or whatever towards this leadership team doesn't mean that they automatically understand exactly how to show up, and that they automatically understand exactly how to collaborate and move forward. And I think that that's something that it takes a little while for leaders to understand that and to say, okay, I'm going to have to lead them as well. Sometimes we think if we just hire executives, then all of our problems go away. And what
that's
they
not
find.
How it works?
No, I know. Like, trust me, I was sad too. I was sad too when I add people and I'm like, wait a minute. I definitely was guilty of being like, hi, welcome. I don't know what you're going to do. Like, this is a problem. Can you just go solve it? And then, great. Do you have any leadership training? And I pull stuff together. And so I think that's the biggest opportunity is, how do you train these leaders? We have the 10 talents of a tribe. It's like, what are those core things and mindset that they need to have? How do they tactically apply it? Like, not just have these principles, but apply it. And then what's the platform that's going to bring this team together? Because it doesn't happen by itself.
That's great. Yeah. And I think there's a huge opportunity here as these groups are starting to grow and they're starting to piece those teams together. If you can solve that on the front end, it allows you to go a lot faster from what I've seen. Another thing that I've heard you explain, and this helped me personally because I was trying to live in both of these worlds at all times. And you broke it down in such a way that helped me understand that you can't do that. You kind of have to pick. And it's your growth versus chaos metric or formula, whatever you want to call it. Could you break that down? Just like pretend I've never heard of it before, and kind of walk me through where businesses go through that and how they have to start thinking about their operations.
So growth, the easiest way I can visualize this is like there's a stamp, right? And you're just stamping out. It's like, I have a proven process. I understand what I need to do, or I understand it relatively well. We've proven that we know how to do this. So think of growth as like a stamp, and think of chaos as like this area of something that you haven't really done before. And so it's more like this blank canvas that requires rapid learning and a lot of infrastructure to make that rapid learning and communication possible. So you're really trying to reduce risk over in chaos as much as you can by getting that collaboration just very, very intense and getting the team aligned very quickly to give feedback so that you can understand what's working and what's not. But a lot of people go into chaos and they call it growth, or they call it innovation because we love that word.
Of course, yeah, because innovation's great. Let's just innovate all the time, right? Yep. Apple does it. Why can't we do it? So let's put skin on this. Let's put it into a dental office. So chaos is like you're a GP practice and now you want to do specialty?
Yes, if you've never done it before.
Yeah, so that's chaos, right? Because you think, yeah, we'll just add a doctor and it's easy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's not really how it works in reality. And then growth is, hey, we have 4 operatories and we want to go to 6. And so we're going to add another hygienist. We're going to add another provider. And that's something that you've already done. So all the systems are already there. All the training's already there, correct?
Yes. Yep. And what you need to learn at that point is like incremental, or, hey, we have a formula for building out a new practice. We already know what to do. Okay, great. We're just going to go do that again. We know what demographics we're looking for. We know what to look for the area, the location. Like sometimes it takes a few locations to get that confidence and clarity, but that would be growth as well. We're not going to change what we offer. We're not going to change who we serve, the insurances we take, etc. That's growth.
Got it. And then one of the things that you say is when you're in growth, you can be more profitable. But when you're in chaos, tell me about that and tell me kind of what dentists tend to do in the chaos phase.
Yeah. So in growth, you can actually predict a lot better what's going to happen. So even if you do what they call like a J curve, where you kind of dip for a minute because you made all these investments, right? You have this path to come back up and there's an agreed upon like performa, so to speak, or this financial outcome. When you're in chaos, you actually don't know exactly what that's going to look like. And you're going to do your best guess, right? But when you're in that phase, you can actually expect to, again, have to do rapid collaboration and learning together to understand, like, what is that J curve? Okay, when do we stop? When do we abandon this idea? And when do we push through it and keep moving?
So do dentists tend to try to save money in chaos and try to become profitable in your experience?
Yes. And they're really frustrated when it isn't. And they actually think that it's a reflection of the people that they've hired and their executive team, et cetera. They're like, why is this happening? And so one thing I want to teach them is like, hey, that's gravity. And so this isn't like the lack of performance. And the thing that we can improve is collaboration and rapid learning. But when we took on this project or this concept, we're really committing to like, we can't predict all the things, right? But we're going to adjust very quickly as we go through this process together.
That's great. Yeah, that mindset really helped me. Okay, if we want to grow and we want to do all these new things, we're not going to be profitable or as profitable. And if we stay away from those things and we do these predictable things, then it's easier to be profitable and it's easier. And trying to do both is impossible or crazy, right? Like it's just going to cause so much stress and you're trying to save money, but you're trying to also innovate and it just doesn't. So you have to learn how to communicate with that, with your team, what you're doing. Where are we at? Are we trying to innovate? Are we trying to just stabilize and go with predictable growth? So that's something that really helped me. I appreciate you sharing that. Another concept that I've heard you share and that I think is awesome is the mindset of the hero versus the facilitator. Could you walk us through that a little bit?
Sure. I realized as I was adding to my team, at CDP, I ended up as the COO, I think having like 500 team members underneath me or on my team. And, but so you have to add leadership right in there. And I realized that we were hiring people to solve problems, which is great, right? Okay, we have this problem and you have all this skill set or whatever, or potential. But what I realized is that then I needed them to start bringing other people with them and other leaders with them. And I was always trying to teach about elevating your team and here's how you do it and, grow leaders. And finally, this concept came to me a little while ago where I was like, okay, this is really what we're dealing with. When you hire someone, you're asking them to be the hero. You're asking them to come in, especially in leadership, and fix a department and get things organized and cleaned up. Okay. But what happens is if they stay in that space of always fixing and cleaning up and things like that, they start to suppress the leadership of their current team. And then what you find is they get stuck there. So they're stuck in what I call the hero mode. They can't go on vacation. They have all the right answers. Their team is very dependent on them long term. These are long-term things that start to happen. And then as the hero, in our one-on-ones and things, you start to hear that they begin to resent their team a little bit. Like, hey, I want to get excited about the vision, about where you're going, Jodi, but I can't because my team is bogging me down. My team doesn't have this capability. And so what I really wanted to break down is how do we get out of that cycle? Because I know we started there and that's okay. But now how do we grow out of that and move those leaders up to that facilitator role, which is more of that person that can grow leaders. So going from I fix problems to I grow people. So anyways, we want to develop a path for that.
And is that, do you feel that's a little bit not intuitive for people up front? Because everybody wants to be the hero, right?
Yes, I think that's how politics start, actually, and protecting your position. And I think one of my strengths at CDP or probably anywhere I go is that I do not like politics and I don't like a lot of game playing. And actually, as we brought people from other organizations in, that was a massive change management that I'd have to emphasize again and again. Like, there is no other agenda. I really do want you to work yourself out of a job. And and it's not because we're going to get rid of you. It's because we're going to grow. We're in a rapidly growing and sometimes chaotic environment. And I need people to come with me to that future. And it was a crazy trust exercise for some of them because they weren't used to that.
Yeah, that's a big shift. And you used a phrase there, change management, which kind of leads into the next topic that I wanted to hit on. What is something that you feel that needs to be added into the dental world that isn't there yet as far as operating a business?
Oh, there's so many opportunities. I think that one of the things that I think happens in a younger industry with full of entrepreneurs, which is, it's very, very exciting, but we go from what I call like whiteboard to like, I have this idea to implement, right? It's like, now go do it. And I did that. So this is not, again, it's not criticizing. It's just, it's the world you live in. You don't know any different. You're like, I don't know if there's steps in between, right? I think my people are smart. We think that it's a form of like believing in our team. And so I would go from like whiteboard to like, okay, rock and roll, like go. And I had amazing people come back to me and like be truthful about their anxiety level and be truthful about like the chaos that I was creating and not the chaos from the alignment, like the crazy that I was creating and how I wasn't actually leading. I was just whiteboarding, and calling that leadership. Like, oh, I see the future. I'm amazing, instead of like, yeah, but do you see us too? I was like, oh, yeah. But this is going to be great because it's going to help you. I'm going to sell it. I'm going to sell the whiteboard to implement. That didn't work. So then it was like, well, actually, I'm going to have a process where I can see you and you can see me and we can see like how to come together effectively and really connect the future with the present situation. And how do we merge those two together effectively was an opportunity that I found. And
how'd you do that? Like practically, like what was one thing that someone could do to move in that direction?
So I added in a project manager. And, people are like, well, how did you recruit him? First of all, like it was my nephew. Okay, so this is like grassroots stuff, and there's just nothing wrong with that. But he was freshly out of college, just graduated, and I was like, "Hey, do you want to come be my project manager?" He's like, "What does that mean?" I'm like, "I don't know. It just means like I can just come up with a lot of ideas, and I stress out my team, and I need somebody to help me not do that." Took his Colby. It was different than mine. I figured, well, that's got to be better than what I got right now, and we began to build that process out. So I think the first step is recognizing that you can't do it by yourself. And
Got it.
I think that's the first step, right? The first step is that you need help.
Yep, absolutely. And you said something there, Colby. So obviously, a lot of people probably heard the name Colby and the assessment. There's tons of assessments out there. How do you use Colby to pick people? You said your Colby was different than your nephew's. How does that work, and how do you use that, and how does it really give you a leg up?
So Colby assess your strengths. They're all positive, but there's 12 different strengths, and those strengths identify how you tackle a problem. Okay, so in other words, it's the strength that you have. It's like, when I show up to tackle a problem, here's how I do it. So if you think about it in application, it basically called out like, Jodi's going to whiteboard a problem, and she's going to write it on a whiteboard and feel like that is amazing, right? Because that's my strength. I can brainstorm about the future. What it told me about Brett is his strengths were different than mine. He filled up different boxes than I filled up. So when we were talking about the future, he had a different way of seeing it. Basically, he saw like all the problems, and he could see like more reality than what I could see. He could see the present better than what I could see. And so he knew how to take that and organize it. So it's always a yes and with the Colby. It's not an either or. Mm-hmm. But I love the yes and because I was blindly running with only my own strengths. And when I added in different strengths, I felt like then we could see more of the truth and more of the big picture. And I think that's the powerful component of combining them. And nobody has them all. Like you can't, right? So you're pretty limited by yourself.
Yeah, that's great. And I've seen that firsthand as well. And it's like you need people in the room to be able to tell you why you can't do it, right? Or what's standing in the way of doing it. If everybody's just like, yeah, it's great and let's go. And like you said, high greens of just like, let's move forward. That can cause a lot of messes and then actually set you back further than you were when you started. So I've seen that firsthand, and I have that tendency as well. It's just like, this is easy. Let's just do it. So that's great. Now, one of the things that I know that you work through with people is some of the myths or the stories that we tell ourselves, right? What are some of the bigger stories that you're hearing entrepreneurs telling themselves that might not be true, that might be holding them back a little bit?
I think at certain stages, there's a tendency to take tactical tools and apply it to problems when actually there's a leadership issue. And the more that you grow your organization, the more important it is to look at the leadership platform and how you're collaborating than it is to always apply tactical solutions. So to give an example, if a treatment coordinator isn't taking care of treatment coordinating and they've been trained and they know how to do it, they're not doing it. How do we step back and look at our platform instead of just going, well, let's just send somebody in there to teach them again? Or, I've had people like, so do they stand there and make sure they do it? I'm like, that's not the problem. So as we grow, we got to step back a little bit more and say, what else is happening in that practice that could be preventing that person from being successful? And how do we line that up and prioritize those things so that when we start to fix, the bigger problems, that actually has a ripple effect to fixing some of the tactical issues that we deal with. So anyways, that's a mindset shift that happens with growth that allows you to be much more effective and lead in a scalable way. You can do it in a private practice. That's not a problem. But when you have, even 5 practices, it's much harder to see.
Yeah, it becomes more complex, right? Mm-hmm. As you move up, and it gets a little more difficult each step along the way. And one of the things that you actually talked about that kind of ties into this, you said vision in a box. Could you kind of walk me through what that is and how that works and why people might be interested in it?
Yeah, so vision in a box was really getting the whole entire team aligned around where we're going. And I do love, as part of Vision in the Box, we have what's called the alignment anchors. Those are the things that like remind us all, like, as we're working through this complexity, remember, we all signed up for this and we all still like, let's say you're going to add more chaos to your organization or try new things. Well, our core values are the same. Our vision is the same. The core results we want to achieve are the same, and as we add more of these things in, guess what? We're still who we are. So you're not all of a sudden working for a different company. You're working for the exact same company that's taking this risk, and we're going to do that together. So I love the alignment anchors because we call out, like, we're going to go together, but remember, we're still united around these core things. So that's part of it.
Yeah. So entrepreneurs can confuse people, right? Because they can be in a business and it's like, hey, we're doing this, and it's like squirrel, and it's like, okay, 30 other squirrels, and your team, even though to you it may seem like, hey, everybody's on the same page, sometimes they're not, right? And so I love that word that you use a lot, as alignment. Are we aligned? Are we on the same page? And I know vision in a box really helps with that. I know during COVID, can you walk me through some of the things that happened to you and how COVID impacted you positively?
So many amazing things, I think, happened in COVID in a positive way. I'm going to start first with, you got to see people show up because of the chaos of COVID. You got to see people show up in a way that you just can't in any other environment because they didn't need to, right? But in COVID, you got to see people really shine in their leadership. And I thought that was incredible. And that had to do with not the title, but the person just showing up across the board at CDP and the organization. We saw people coming to work, just wanting to be a part of it, wanting the future to exist. And so willing to help in the present with all of the chaos that COVID caused. And people cheerleading us on, but also solving problems that typically they may not have been a part of previously. So I loved that. I also love the wake up call of COVID to say, what do you really want to do? And what's the impact you want to make? And I think everybody had that. It was just for whatever reason, I think the amount of chaos was so intense that we were forced to be more selective about how we spend our time and how we contribute in the world.
It made everybody kind of reset, right? There was like a hard reset that happened. So how did that impact you? What radical changes or what things did you do when that hard reset came?
Got really clear on what do I want and what am I passionate about and how can I contribute at the highest level. I think that then I got really passionate about, well, I wonder what everybody else is thinking. What do they want and how are they going to contribute at the highest level? So I think that opened up something more. It was always there, but it was even more so than what it was before. And I got really clear on that.
Yeah, me too. It definitely was a gut shot at first, right? Which kind of humbles you, puts you in a position to go, okay, what are we going to do? And then from there, it's just like, you're either all in or you're sitting there, right? And I saw it happen at dental organizations. I saw it happen with individuals. I saw it happen with our company. So I know COVID, a lot of bad things happen, but I really believe that it helped people too, right? There's some things that came out of it that were good and impacted people positively. I know it did for me. I don't know where we would be right now if COVID never happened. So big impact there. What was one of your favorite marketing campaigns of all time?
Okay.
Or most impactful? You can be favorite or most impactful.
Okay. Okay, so one of my favorite when I was a little kid was spearmint gum. I just like that double mint gums, juicy fruit. I don't know, all them with like the twins and all that stuff. Like for me, that
was it twin redheads? Is that right?
Yes. Well, that was one. And they have the long blonde hair, which I was envisioned one day I'd have. And hey, look at them. Look at me now. No, I'm just kidding. But I just loved that. I loved that commercial. I think from a marketing standpoint, of like what had the biggest impact, I'd probably say, man, Walt Disney, this belief that if you wish on a star, like your dreams will come true. My dad was very much an entrepreneur, dreamed really big, struggled a lot to execute, but like taught us to dream big all the time. And then, then Walt Disney said to do it. And I was like, all right, then I'm going to do it. So I love that about the vision that they gave to little kids, because we used to watch them every Sunday night, their Disney show.
That is actually Nike and Walt Disney, kind of for our generation, everybody that we ask, those are really impactful campaigns or just brands in how they kind of form the way that we thought about things. One thing that you said there is that your dad was an entrepreneur. And I know you're kind of in a family of entrepreneurs, right? How has that shaped you? Because some people, to me, like if I'm trying to think back, right? Like I'm thinking through my parents. My parents were entrepreneurs too. And sometimes when your parents do things, it kind of steers you clear of that. It doesn't seem that was the case for you. How did that impact you growing up in an entrepreneur family?
I think the biggest thing that my dad did is that he turned to people like Zig Ziglar and Tony Robbins, and he'd bring that stuff home. And I thought he was crazy. Like I never listened to any of it. So I wasn't like this humble kid. It's like, that's cool, Dad. What are you doing? And I'm like, okay, Dad. But he would verbalize that to us constantly. So he was speaking that to us. And so when I turned about 18, I was like, okay, now I'm actually interested. Like, how did this happen? And then when I turned 25, I really started being like, okay, what's the books you read? And what are you doing? But ironically, my mom ended up being the one that bought a business and, 10 times it. But I think she did that because she had the confidence of my dad. I don't think that I know without my dad and his willingness to dream big, that my mom would have even taken the risk. But because she had his mindset and his encouragement, she moved forward and did some pretty incredible things. And I feel like they've done it together in a lot of ways.
10X. That's awesome. So she bought a business, 10X'd it. And I know you still work with your mom in some businesses, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, awesome. I work with her and her team. COVID definitely took a shot at her organization, but they adjusted. And now they're completely like coming out of it and they're back up like to where they used to be. And so I'm amazed at her and her leadership. Totally different Colby than me. Different mindset, but wonderful example. She sees things that I can't see. And so I love working with her and the way that she thinks about the world. And she's been really successful. And so it just shows like, it's, if your natural abilities, she leverages Colby as well. She leverages the strengths of other people. And it's been amazing what she's been able to do by setting that example.
So you're still learning from your mom, but then you're over there helping your mom grow and improve as well, right? So it's kind of like back and forth.
Yeah, that's every relationship, hopefully, right? At some level. So yeah, I love it.
That is great, Jodi. Well, thank you so much. So last question for you. If someone wants to find you and connect with you, how can they do that? How can they communicate with you?
All right. LinkedIn and Facebook are great places. Reach out to me in Messenger and I will respond quickly. And awesome. I just love talking to people. So if they're like, hey, I just want you to help me understand my Colby with one of my team members or whatever, like, that's my passion. Like, I'm here for you. Yeah, I love it.
That's great. And so we'll put the links down below if you want to connect with Jodi. If you have questions, if you go, wait, how would this work for me? Just reach out to her. I did the same thing. I said, hey, I know you come from more of a dental background, but I want you to kind of look at what we're doing inside of SMC. And she was able to help us tremendously. I cannot thank Jodi enough for what she's done for us. And I've seen her do it for other people as well. So make sure you reach out to her. And Jodi, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your journey with us today.
Thank you so much, Gary. I've absolutely loved it. Appreciate you.